Good day, everybody. This is Jeffrey Harris, and you are listening to the 411 Wrestling Interviews podcast. Today, we have an exclusive interview with MLW star Logan Creed. He's formerly Grogan, the muscle for Dynasty. Since that time, he has broken off from Dynasty, and now he is forging his own path in singles career. He is the Heathen Unleashed from the wastelands of Georgia. Now, first, if you are listening to us, thank you so much. I hope everyone is doing well with all the shutdowns and quarantines at the moment. I hope you and your families are safe. But thank you for listening to us if you're listening to us on one of our many platforms, including the 411 Mania YouTube channel, Apple Podcasts, Transistor, and Spotify. So I think this was a great interview with Logan Creed. And here we go. This is our exclusive interview with Logan Creed on the 411 Wrestling Interviews podcast. Okay, here we go. Welcome back, everybody. This is Jeffrey Harris reporting for the 411 Wrestling Interviews podcast. For today's interview, we have Logan Creed of Major League Wrestling, formerly Gordon Grogan of the Dynasty. Now you have struck out on your own, Logan Creed, and we better watch out because you are a rising star, and it's been great to see you as part of the MLW roster, striking out on your own. So the name Logan Creed, I look at the name Logan Creed together, it seems a little bit reminiscent of Wolverine and Sabretooth. That
would be 100% correct.
So you're a Marvel Comics fan, and that's not a coincidence.
Not a coincidence at all. Definitely a Marvel Comics fan. And the name, it was kind of a name that, growing up, I felt like that was going to be the name. Before I ever started training to wrestle, it was always something that we had thrown around and ideas that my brother and myself had. So it finally come to fruition, once later in life, and once I kind of got established in my career, I put it out there and ran with it.
So it's kind of like a mix of that's Wolverine's name, and of course Sabretooth's name is Graydon Creed. So is that where you got it from?
Exactly.
So, Logan, tell me a little bit more about your wrestling journey, and were you a fan of wrestling growing up? Did you come upon it later? I'm just curious how this journey started for you.
I started as a small child. Growing up, I remember being at my grandparents' house, and they would always have the NWA, the Starcades, and the pay-per-views. They would have those ordered at their house, and the community where they lived would actually gather at their house to watch them. I remember different families coming over to watch because my grandparents were the only people that could get it. And so that's kind of what it started, was watching it with them as a small child. And then, as I got older, I continued to be a fan. So it was something that I loved my entire life.
Now, when I look at, your gear and your look, it looks really cool, unique. What would you say inspired, your gear and your look and the face paint design you have going on?
Obviously the name, like we talked about, come from comics. The design for the gear actually was it's kind of just something I drew, out of my head. Was, I looked at comic characters, and I looked at superheroes, and I looked at supervillains, and they all have unique outfits, every single one of them, and you can almost pinpoint who's who just by how they look. And so I really wanted to design something that was different, that you didn't really see a lot, and that was my own. And so that's how the gear came up. And the face paint is definitely reminiscent of some of the early wrestlers that I idolized. Sting, the Road Warriors, Ultimate Warrior. I always loved the face paint, and I loved the presentation that those guys brought with it.
Now, also, I'm really impressed with your style and what I've seen out of the ring from you so far. I mean, everything you do, it looks fast, it looks crisp, it looks athletic, but I like how you also mix in those sort of, because you're a big guy, but you also mix in those sort of like heavyweight, big guy offense moves in there. So can you talk a little bit about it all, how you wanted your style to come off, and what type of wrestler you wanted to be?
Yeah, I remember for years being told, not to go fast, and it frustrated me for a long time. But it started to make sense later on. I understood the reason for, the reason why I needed to maybe move a little slower at times. But in the same respect, I wanted to show that my athletic ability was there, and at the right time, to show off those skills and really set myself apart from anybody else who is my size, and also show that I could wrestle on any spectrum.
I'm just saying, I think it looks good because there aren't many guys that who look like you and can move it as fast and quick as you and do that like really great. You did like a dive over the top rope against Moonshine. I was just so impressed with that. So I think it's a good thing going for you, and I can't wait to see more from you later on.
No, yeah, it's one of those things that when I get something in my head and I feel like I'm going to do it, that I have to figure out if I can do it. So I'm always pushing myself to the next level and to my own limits. And I have to attribute my background in collegiate wrestling and sports in general to my athletic ability, because all of that together is what allowed me to remain flexible enough and athletic enough to do those things.
Now, last year you joined Major League Wrestling, MLW. So tell me about like how things brought you to MLW and why MLW was the best choice for you at the time.
I guess it was probably November, December of 2018 that I really got in my head that it was time for me to go to the next level, or it was time for me to just kind of say, okay, that's enough. I need to figure out what else I can do in life. If this isn't going to become a career, then it's time for me to find something that is going to be a permanent thing. And so instead of just saying, I'm going to wait and see what happens, I really started pushing my stuff out there. I just started sending emails. I started trying to get in contact with as many promotions as I could. And, regardless of whether I heard anything or not, I would just, every week, I would pick 5 or 6 new promotions and I would email. And I would send matches and I'd send my resume. And I guess it was August of 2019 that I got a text message from George Carroll Jr. Asking me if I was in talks with anyone, about a contract, and so it kind of just led from there. That led me to talking to MSL. We started kind of talking about contract stuff, and actually during that time, I was offered a WWE tryout, and I opted to not do that and to stay with MLW. I felt like that the path was probably tougher and longer there, but that's kind of what I wanted. I always saw myself working my way up, and there were still parts of the world that I wanted to see before going to WWE.
And then along the way, at first you were the muscle for the Dynasty as Grogan, and now you've broken off from the Dynasty, and now you are the Heathen Unleashed. You are Logan Creed. So how have you getting to kind of take these steps in developing the Logan Creed legend?
No, it's awesome. And Court really saw something in the character, and that itself let me know that I was doing something right, because Court's such a creative mind when it comes to gimmicks and everybody individually. He's so hands-on with characters. But he saw something in it, and he saw the ability to create something out of it. And so it moved relatively fast. It didn't last. The Grogan didn't last very long until Logan Creed was set free, and now it's just a matter of time before we see more of it.
Now, can you tell me a little bit more about Court Bauer and in his leadership, especially right now we're in this very sort of difficult time with the coronavirus pandemic and everything's shut down right now, and how Court has, in your mind, how he's asserted himself during this period.
Well, I mean, he's inking new deals every day with new TV deals overseas, reaching new people, a new audience, with all of these new TV deals. So he hasn't stopped promoting the brand, and he hasn't stopped expanding it to new eyes. And I think that's very important, especially at a time when we can't produce any new content. He's making sure that when the time comes, the new content is going to be available to so many new people. And they've got the ability to also, they've got content stored away, and they've got content that still hasn't been seen. So it's nice in a way because we're kind of seeing it through without being set back too much.
Now, I guess you touched on a little bit earlier. So did you collaborated with Court, in this sort of storyline where first, they had you as the muscle for Dynasty, and then they let you kind of take on the Logan Creed persona from there. Would you say it's a collaborative experience working with the creative side on MLW that way?
Absolutely. He's right there, every step of the way with the ideas that he has. And not only him, but, everybody involved in the creative process. Everybody's got eyes on it. Everybody's got their take on it. And that really helps you when you're looking at, creating something, because if you're only ever looking at it from one side, it's kind of hard to see what the world sees or how somebody else may see it. And when you get that feedback, it helps you, build on what you're already doing. And so he's been very hands-on from the word go with everything that we've done.
It's so weird right now with this coronavirus pandemic, Logan, and just everything is shut down, but it seems one of the few things that's still running right now is professional wrestling, even though MLW is shut down right now. But so just give it to me from your perspective, though. What's it like being a pro wrestler during this time at the moment? And is it nerve-wracking? Is it maddening? How are you holding up?
I think everybody's going through days where it's frustrating. I would be lying if I said some days, I wasn't frustrated. But at the same time, trying to stay focused on the fact that things will come back and things will go back to normal. And I truly believe when they do that it's going to be as hot as it was before, if not hotter. People are going to be ready for entertainment. They're going to be ready for pro wrestling. They're going to be ready for whatever it is that they enjoy when it comes to entertainment. So when it does finally, when everything clears up and we come back to normal life, whatever that may be, people are going to be hungry for wrestling again. I mean, and you still got it out there. You still see people talking about it. You still see fans every day posting about how much they miss shows, reaching out to guys individually that they miss seeing. And they're supporting guys buying T-shirts, buying merchandise while they know they're not able to work. And it's humbling, to see that outpouring of love from the people that we do this for.
Now, I mean, the wrestling industry has also been hit very hard by this pandemic as well. Do you have any advice or tips, for other wrestlers or just people in general who are struggling right now through this period?
Yeah, I think you just got to keep your head on straight and focus on the future. Don't think about the now. Just think about what you can control right now. Yeah, gyms are still closed, but there's still ways to work out. There's still ways to better yourself, and you can always. This is a great time of self-reflection and to see maybe some things in life that you could change, maybe some things that you can get better at, maybe some things you shouldn't have been doing before that, now you realize you didn't really need and was a distraction. So I think it's important to stay positive and try to find the positive aspects of what's happening and build yourself, build your character, and become a better person through it.
Now, I thought it was quite interesting, when MLW announced your movie deal that, like, the Dynasty's like, hey, we want a cut of your fees and your royalties for your movie role. What do you think about Dynasty trying to get a cut in on your action over there?
I hope Daddy / lawyer, I guess we'll see him in court if he wants some of that, because it's not happening.
So once we get going again, do you think you might have to go after, target the Dynasty, for trying to get one over on you?
Oh, absolutely. And I think number one on the list would be Hammerstone. How long has he had the title? It's time for somebody to dethrone him.
He's the MLW Openweight Champion, and I got to tell you, a guy like you, impressive, Hammerstone, he's a big heavy hitter for the Dynasty. That I feel like that would be a hell of a matchup, a great signature matchup for MLW. What do you think about that?
I think that's a match that nobody realizes they want to see yet. But once they do, they'll want to see it more.
I tell you right now, I'm talking about it with you. I what I've seen out of you so far, Logan. I want to see that matchup.
I think it's gonna be big for MLW. It's gonna be big for us, and it's gonna be big for wrestling.
Okay, so you're also attached to the horror movie project that's in the works right now called Dead by Midnight. What can you tell us about that project you're working on?
So this is my first experience. Super crazy how I got the role. The director was looking for a wrestling arena to shoot this particular part of the movie. And so when he reached out to the owner of the promotion, I think he actually saw a picture of me on the wall in the office. And he's like, oh my God, who is this guy? They started talking. He's like, do you think you'd be interested in playing a part? And so they reached out. We talked about it. And, of course I accepted. It was a great opportunity, a new experience. And it's been an awesome experience.
Now, you're playing a character called the Gut Cruncher. Now, I also saw some clips and some photos you shared on your TikTok and Twitter where you're wearing this really cool creature makeup. Is this related to that movie?
That is the Gut Cruncher makeup. The process took about 4.5 hours, so we were probably about midway through at that point. But I love this. I was such a fan of Tales of the Crypt as a kid.
Yeah.
Really cheesy, 80s, gory, almost comedic in a sense. But that's what this feels like. And so that was a lot of fun when I realized what it was. And so the ability that I was able to take my professional wrestling experience and blend it into this role was really awesome.
Have you ever did you know there was a third Tales from the Crypt movie?
I did not.
So Demon Knight, Bordello of Blood, there was a little known third movie that I think mainly just got thrown away on video called Ritual, and it stars do you know the movie Dirty Dancing?
I do.
So it stars Jennifer Grey from Dirty Dancing in this movie, and the Crypt Keeper does do the intro and outro for the movie, but it's probably the worst looking Crypt Keeper puppet ever. You should YouTube, you could probably YouTube some clips of it, but it's called Tales from the Crypt Presents Ritual. It's it's really, super cheap, low budget, but it's actually it's got some decent actors, not big stars, but wow, these people are in this movie. So
right.
Tim Curry, Tim Curry from Rocky Horror, he's in this movie, just for example. So it's kind of like I didn't know until a few months ago that this movie exists. So if you enjoy low budget horror, I will
definitely have to check it out.
Yeah. I'm oh my, They made another Tales from the Crypt movie after Bordello of Blood. Oh my god! But yeah, I was a big fan of Tales from the Crypt back in the day as well. Um, now, I really like your promo style as well, Logan. So, can you tell me about like the promo process in MLW? Do you work off of bullet points? Do you like scripted promos? Because that's a bit of a debate these days in pro wrestling. So, I'm curious how it works in the MLW process.
I go back to what I said earlier about how it works with the creative process. All the way around. You've got a producer there with you, and there's bullet points. You kind of know what you're going to talk about, and everybody just kind of collaborates. We may take a cut, we may take a shot, do it one time. Everybody kind of talks about it, and everybody throws an idea out. What if it sounds like this, or what if you do this? And so, and I love that. I think that's awesome because, like I said, the more perspective you get on it, the better it's going to be. Sometimes when you're doing a promo and it's just you really feel it, then you don't need to change it because it come from your heart and it's just it was there. But sometimes when it's generic and maybe you're cutting a promo about whatever, everybody else has a feeling of how it needs to sound, and sometimes they're right. And so I love the fact that they're not just taking whatever's given and putting it out there. Everybody's giving feedback. Everybody's working together to make sure it's the best that it can possibly be.
Now, with the AAA versus MLW deal, is that something, once wrestling gets going again, do you want to be mixing it up with the AAA wrestlers and possibly doing shows in Mexico?
I am literally sitting on the edge of my seat waiting for that opportunity. One of the biggest reasons that, that when we started talking and when I started talking with MLW was the opportunity to work overseas and in Mexico and Japan. I'm waiting for that opportunity because it's something I've always wanted to do.
It's crazy to think that MLW and AAA, that card on March 15th, I think that might have been like one of the last major wrestling cards with a live crowd that we might be seeing for, I mean, who knows how long, maybe a number of more months, but that's pretty impressive when you think about it.
It really is. And I remember sitting at home because I didn't go on that tour, and I was like, man, I'd give anything to be there, but I know my time's coming. Mm-hmm. It's just, but I realized when it was happening that, we may not see a live crowd, for months.
Also, can you talk about that at all? As a wrestler, how important is the crowd for your performance and to respond to the reaction the crowd gives you and to feed off of it and deal with that? And thinking about, would it be an adjustment period for you if you come back and you might not have the benefit of a live crowd for a while for upcoming taping? So I don't know what the plan will be going forward for MLW.
Yeah, I've thought about that because I don't really know. There's times in a match when the crowd is really pushing, what's happening, and they're almost in control of the action in a way. And we do feed on them. We feed on their reaction throughout a match. So it's hard to think, how it would be different without them there. What would you need to change? What would need to be different? So I've thought about it a lot. I haven't had the opportunity to do it, so I wouldn't know unless I actually was there. I've had matches at training, so I would think it would be similar, but it would definitely. I know it's definitely different. And I've talked to some guys that are dealing with it now and filming lots of tonight, and they've said it's really different, but at the same time, you're doing, that there's still people watching through the camera. So
it's really interesting. It's really interesting to think about, and I mean, it's a challenge for sure, and I guess it's just a different type of challenge that wrestlers already have to deal with, but just something from a different perspective. Has MLW? Do you know what the plan will be in the coming months? Do you or do you not know yet? I'm just curious.
We don't. I don't think we know yet exactly what's going on. We're constant contact, of course, with management, updating us on anything that's going on, updating us on opportunities where we can promote ourselves, or make sure that we're keeping our own appearances up to the best of our ability through podcasts, things like that. But no, I don't think anybody has a set in stone game plan yet for when we're actually going to come back.
Now, when you signed that MLW contract, your first major wrestling contract, I mean, did it feel like a big moment for you, and did it feel like sort of a new, you're starting a new chapter in your life?
Yeah, it was the sign that I needed to see, because, like I said, Christmas of the year before that, I had literally said that if something doesn't happen in this next year, I had pretty much said my birthday would be that next year. That I was going to kind of cut back and try to find something else to do. And I literally signed the MLW contract on my birthday in August of 2019. So I don't think there could have been any bigger signs than here's what you're supposed to be doing.
Are there besides mixing it up with that Alex Hammerstone, are there any guys you have your eye on that you would love to work with in the future in MLW?
Oh man, Fatu.
Okay, yep, that'd be awesome.
Holiday, geez, literally, there's not many guys in that locker room. I don't think there's anybody in that locker room that I wouldn't love the opportunity to work with. Everybody there is hungry and full of talent, and you've got so many different styles of wrestler, within the MLW company that come from all kinds of backgrounds, from fighting backgrounds, kickboxing, wrestling, brawlers. It's such a unique group of talent all under one roof.
I mean, you have Tom Lawler, a former UFC fighter, King Mo. I mean, he's a former MMA champ, a former Strikeforce champion, a high-level collegiate wrestler. So, I mean, you have former combat athletes in this organization. Then you have guys like, Davey Boy Smith Jr. It's a very unique roster, low key. And I feel they made some really good moves, yourself included, signing some impressive names and sort of branding sort of like their own unique roster in MLW. But what do you think?
No, that's absolutely what they've done. I think they're hand-picking. It's kind of like, you remember if you played a pickup game of basketball in school, and everybody had that one team they wanted, because they didn't realize that there was a whole room full of guys that you could pick up and were going to be better together than that group of five. And I really feel like that's what it is. It's unique talent who all have their individual skill, and when you put them together, it creates what we have in MLW, and it creates something they love to watch and they want to see.
Now, my hope through this tough time that we're going through right now, Logan, is that once the dust clears and we can get on the other side of this, we can be motivated and we can hopefully come out of this stronger. What do you see for the wrestling industry? Do you think once we're on the other side of this that you and other wrestlers will be raring to go and will be hungry, motivated, and come sprinting out the gates, swinging. I don't know the best analogy, but just come out fast out the gate. Once we're on the other side of this, and hopefully everyone's getting back to work and getting you guys back in the ring.
Yeah, I think this time is going to probably cut some of the fat. Maybe there may be people that don't come back. There may be organizations that come back. You don't know the impact financially that this has had on some of the companies, and I'm sure it's hurt a lot, especially any that was dependent upon it as trying to make a real living. I mean, it's hurt, so it's. I'm sure everybody wants to hit the ground running, but I think there's still a lot of fear in the air right now. I think there's a lot of questions in the air right now. You know, I live in Georgia, and the state's about to open Friday, and you know, there's so many people on both sides of the equation, you know, arguing about if it should or if it shouldn't, and what we should do and what we shouldn't do. So, you know, there's a lot of things to take into consideration when we even start thinking about opening wrestling, because are people going to want to come out to the show? Are they going to be afraid for their health? You know, and so they're not going to come, because that's what we're dependent on is selling tickets. So I think there's a lot of questions, you know, and I have no doubt that as wrestlers we're all ready to go. I would hesitate to say there's a single wrestler out there not ready to get back in the ring. You know, I know we all are. But from a business standpoint, and, you know, I know these promoters are probably questioning when the right time.
Like, so I guess from you personally, do you feel like you're getting hungrier?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like I haven't wasted this time at all. You know, I've worked on my body, just like I would have before, but I've been able to heal some lingering, nagging injuries that were there.
Mm-hmm.
I feel amazing, and it was nothing serious. But you know, when you're constantly beating yourself up, you're never really healing, so you're just kind of living with pain. But no, you know, I feel better than I have in a long time, and you know, I'm looking staying the course. You know, I'm looking forward to when that time comes and being ready to go.
Now, since you are a Marvel Comics and a superhero fan, I saw that really cool picture you posted on Twitter of Hulk Hogan body slamming Incredible Hulk. That was really cool. But I'm curious, would you think maybe the best way to bring in Wolverine into the Marvel Cinematic Universe, maybe do a Hulk versus Wolverine type of movie?
If I have a bucket list movie, like, I want to see that movie.
Basically, like Wolverine's first comic appearance was in The Incredible Hulk, right? So
right, exactly.
Do that as a movie, right?
Yeah, no, and it's there now. They've given it. I mean, it's able to happen now. So hopefully we'll get it. But yeah, no, that's the one, man. That's the movie I want to see.
Well, Mark Ruffalo, I mean, obviously nothing is set in stone, but Mark Ruffalo was talking about it. He'd say, yeah, he'd be up for it. So I mean, he seems down if they still want to use him as the Hulk, and they control the rights now. So I think it's inevitable at some point. I would love to see that.
Absolutely, and I think it will too. And Mark was the best Hulk by far. Absolutely loved him in the Avengers series.
Okay, so last question for you, Logan. I just wanted to give you the time if you have any plugs, any social media plugs, any merchandise plugs, or anything you got going on that you wanted to share with the listeners. I wanted to give you that time to share that now. So go ahead.
No, yeah, please go over and follow me on Twitter at the Logan Creed, also on Facebook at the Logan Creed, at Instagram. Of course, you can check me out on MLW on BN Sports, and also you can subscribe to their YouTube channel. That is MLW Wrestling. Independent Wrestling TV covers a lot of the Southeast independent shows that I am featured on normally. So if you're bored out of your mind right now and want to catch up on some wrestling maybe you've never seen, that's a really good place to check out. Southern Honor Wrestling, Anarchy Wrestling's on there, New South Wrestling's on there. So there's a lot of good content out there just waiting to be seen.
And the sequel to Dead by Midnight, does it have a title yet? And do you know when we hopefully might be able to see that coming up?
I have not been given an official release date yet. I know we were working on it. We were going to do the film festival in Atlanta in May. Obviously, that's probably going to be set back now. And so we haven't really heard. I think everything's kind of in lingo now. They were finishing it up, the last I was told. So we'll see what happens. But as soon as it is, I will be sharing it via the social media, and I'll definitely let you know, Jeffrey.
Appreciate it, Logan. It's been great talking to you. Keep an eye on this guy. He is a rising star in the making. He is Logan Creed, the Heathen Unleashed of the MLW roster. Logan, thank you for your time, and I appreciate it, and hope everyone's being safe, and have a great week. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeffrey.
All right, and that was Logan Creed of the MLW roster here on the 411 Wrestling Interviews podcast. Now, first, a few things. If you're listening to us on Apple Podcasts, we'd really appreciate it if you could leave us a 5-star rating, a review on there. If you're listening to us on YouTube, if you could give us a like, if you could subscribe to our channel, or just give us a comment. But thanks again if you've been listening to us. You know, it's a very tough time right now, so just thank you for the time, and thanks for joining us for this show, and hope we can keep bringing you more in the coming weeks and months. Really enjoyed that interview. Logan Creed, he definitely seems to be a guy you're going to want to keep an eye on in the coming weeks. Until next time, I'm Jeffrey Harris. You can call me the J to the E to the double F-ree, and this is the 411 Wrestling Interviews podcast. Thank you, everybody.